Hello everyone. Like always, I don't really know what I want to talk about today. How's everyone doing? I hope it's been a beautiful day so far. I just recorded a quick pick card. Out of my walk today, I found a couple different flowers that I picked to help guide you in. Really beautiful little messages. So I'm gonna put that together and upload that, and I hope you enjoy. Let me know if you're interested, if you're drawn into it. Yesterday was the equinox. Today it's been like overcast. It was warm but overcast, and I just have started to notice a lot of leaves on the ground. The colors are changing. There's not a lot of flowers in people's gardens anymore. In my community page, I posted this photo of this blooming petunia bush, and I'm pretty sure it was like a week ago, maybe a little bit longer now. And I walked by that house today, and that, like, it wasn't a bush. I called it a bush in the original video too. Petunia pot. And it was like so sparse. And I was like, whoa. I took a picture of it like in the height of its bloom. It was beautiful, and it's like very sparse now. So it's just a reminder of the transformation that is occurring, especially as we head into the darker part of the year here I'm in the northern hemisphere. We're now in Libra season. Wow. One thing I know about Libra season is the glyph is the scales. Tends to refer to, or the Justice card in tarot as well is connected with that energy. I know that Libra has a lot to do with relationships. I'm pretty sure it rules the 7th house in astrology. And it's like very diplomatic. Makes sense, right? The Justice, the scales, making sure everything is in balance. I mean, literally like the equinox, right? The equal between light and dark. It's pretty amazing how it all kind of connects, right? There was someone that commented on one of my videos, and like super respectfully, so I'm excited. I responded, so I'm hoping that we get a little bit more dialogue. But they basically said, you seem like a very intelligent person, but you started talking about astrology, and I just believe that people should be picking up beakers and putting away their crystals. And I'm sitting over here being like, why can't we have both? So we're having a discussion where I basically said, like, you know what, in my view, I feel like astrology is rooted in, because it's like science, technology. What's the E? E in mathematics, right? And I don't know, I feel like astrology is a science that's been used across like all of the cultures of the world for thousands and thousands of years. And it's rooted in mathematics and physics. And I think when you're not in it, right? Kind of like the popularized version of astrology is like sun sign astrology that's in the newspaper. And you know, if you're someone that hasn't dove deep into it and all you know is like the newspaper column, it's like people are like, oh, astrology is not based on anything, and it's like, wow, there's a lot more to it than just the sun sign newspaper broad prediction, right? I mean, not right. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you haven't had the opportunity to dive into it. So yeah, so me and this commenter are having a lovely little chat, and like I just appreciate how respectful they are. And they basically said, you know, some people will blame astrology, so they'll blame external forces for like bad things going on in their life. And that's a super valid observation, right? Even if you're not like into the astrology world, you've probably heard people be like, Mercury's in retrograde, right? And so people are blaming the orientation of the planets on things happening to them. And you know, there's always truth. You know, when Mercury is in retrograde, you know, there tends to be some issues with communication. There tends to be issues with technology, and you know, the recommendation is like, maybe don't sign any contracts. I have a fun story. So you know what, I got rid of it, and I don't know why I did, but I had the book, and it was called The Power of Mercury, and it was a cool read. It went through all the signs, and how you communicate with other signs based on your Mercury placement. And I went through everyone I knew, because it had an ephemeris in the back, which is basically like the dates of when and where Mercury was. So I literally I went and looked up every single person that I have ever had a communication with, and it was like pretty amazing. But my story. So I was at work, and we just finished a Mercury retrograde like on the 28th of August, and so we were chatting a little bit. We were chatting, me and this his name's Nico, and we were chatting, and I don't know exactly how we got on the conversation, but no, I think I had said like there was something weird happening with the music speaker, and I was like, you know, I made a comment of the like Mercury being in retrograde, and we basically segued, and I was telling him a little bit about Mercury and what it represents, and I said to him, I was like, how's your communication been? He's like, honestly, it's been like way better than usual. He's like, things aren't getting lost in translation. But he was just like, you know what, my communication's better than normal. And I'm like, oh, interesting, because typically people struggle, like text messages get lost or emails get misconstrued, or like typically communication gets a little bit funny. But he said like things have been really good the last couple weeks. And I was like, oh, fascinating. I was like, do you know your chart? And he told me his date of birth. And I said to him, I was like, I think you were born in a retrograde, because people born in a Mercury retrograde, it's the opposite. So, and retrogrades, it happens like 4 times a year, right? So during those couple of weeks, if you were born during a Mercury retrograde, you kind of have the opposite thing where like communication's really good and it's good to sign contracts and creativity can improve, and like so it's like it switches for them. But yeah, it was just so weird because he was like, my communication's been really, really good. And I was like, huh. And so I looked it up, and sure as shit, he was born during a retrograde. And then when Mercury then went direct, I connected with him like a couple days ago, and he was like, I connected with him and I was like, and I didn't even bring it up. He was like, he basically was like, my communication is like gone down the toilet since the 28th. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But it was just so fascinating that, you know, I picked up when he said, like, it's just so fascinating that there's things like that where you can pick up on energies and situations for individual people and their individual situations based on the astrology, and how it impacts their life. I recommended, did I? Yeah, I did. So anyone who's like kind of a skeptic, I recommend the astrology podcast hosted by Chris Brennan, because it's like super scientific and super in-depth, and like the people that he brings on this podcast are like, they've been studying this for forever, right? And there's so many facets. There's so much to learn about it. There's so many different schools of astrology. It's just amazing. And so I said to this person who didn't believe astrology, I said, you know, if you're ever feeling like you want to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole and give something a try, I said, like, go to the astrology podcast and listen to the month ahead forecast. So Chris Brennan and Austin Kopic, they sit down, and what they do is the first half is they talk about the previous month. And so they've been doing this for a really long time, right? So the first half is the review of the last month. So in the forecast of the month ahead, they talk about all the key dates, they talk about all of the energies, they talk about archetypes and planetary influences and things that have happened in the past based on certain like conjunctions or orientations, and then they make predictions about what that's going to look like in terms of world events, right? Like you can like they decoded, you know, the assassination of, or the attempted assassination of Trump. They have his chart, and it's really fascinating that at the time, there were certain conjunctions that related to his Aries, his head, and then his Jupiter, which is like good luck and fortune. Like, and it, you know, he was okay. Fascinating. So, first half of the month ahead is reflecting upon the past month, and so they make the predictions, and then they say, okay, so in the news on these dates, this stuff happened, and it correlates to when something went direct, when there was a conjunction here. Like, it's very scientific. And then what they do is they then, you know, make the predictions, look over the next month. It's like a 3-hour podcast. It's a lot of information. But for somebody that's having a hard time bringing astrology into, say, world events and or like the present moment, because maybe all you know is sun sign astrology or natal, like your birth chart, you can use the planets. I don't like saying use, but you can see what the planets are doing and how it correlates to the globe and like what's happening in the world. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, lovely friend, lovely commenter. Check it out. I said food for thought. It is food for thought, you know. Keep an open mind about it if you can, right? I believe there's truth in everything, you know. Even if something doesn't feel right, it's like, what led to that opinion? What led to the bridging of that knowledge to give the thought of whatever that is? And there's a truth in there. it's so easy to get caught up in like fighting and finding discontentment and disharmony and like, I don't believe that, I don't believe this. But I think it's just more valuable in terms of us being humans and connectors and, you know, people living on this planet, to be like, oh, you're a piece of me. Like, you are a fragment of the whole, just like I am. But you are living through a completely different reality than me. And like, that's totally cool because you have completely different life experiences than I do. But how can we then come together and just like respect one another and say, cool, that's cool that you believe that. Here's what I believe. And if you want to like learn about it, here's a resource. And then like you can come back to the table and be like, okay, like that makes sense to me. This doesn't make sense to me. What about this? I love the idea of like learning and growing together. I think it's super valuable. Super valuable. I think that's it for today. What do you guys think of this color? Is it like too florally? Is it like kind of kimono-y? Is that all right? Did you see? Did we do it? Oh, just for a second. I posted the time lapse of the Kundalini Yoga, the Jaidev equinox meditation. It was a lot more, it's a little different than some of the other ones. We typically do like a cat-cow. We typically do some shoulder movements, but it was based around the Satnam mantra. Sat meaning truth. And so it was all, during every exercise, it was, and you think Satnam, 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 Satnam for the entire time. And then at the end we do like, you see, so it says Satanama. And it was like an 18-minute meditation. So you chant it out loud, and then you whisper it, and then you internally say it, and then you go back to a whisper, and then you go back to chanting it. So it's like Satanama, and then you picture vroom, a beam of light coming in and then shooting out of your third eye. Super cool, super powerful. I'm gonna say it because why not? I had to leave a little early because it all that rhythmic belly breathing just got my digestive fire just like started, and I had to leave the room to go to a different room. It was great. Like the rhythm of that belly breath, oh my gosh. So, you know, no coffee required, just breath work, people, just breath work. So if anyone's having any digestive troubles, Jaidev, Kundalini Yoga, Satnam meditation, highly recommend. Okay, goodbye. Mwah.